And then, you know, I got home, I left John's band. And a couple weeks later, I got a call to join Rod Stewart's band. And at the same time, I had been talking to Chris Layton and Tommy Shannon, who were Stevie's rhythm section.
Sure.
They were forming this band called Storyville. And so I had they wanted me to join the band. I had the choice between making more money than I was making with Mellencamp, flying on a private jet again, or getting back in a van and doing Storyville. And, you know, my wife was like, you got to take the Rod Stewart thing, of course. and I don't know, something in my gut said, this opportunity with Storyville may not come along again. I mean, it felt like something that could really mean, just have some depth.
Right.
And once again, it was intuition. I turned down the Rod Stewart gig and did Storyville. And it was you know, we didn't have the success that I thought we would have, but it was an invaluable period of time, you know. And sometimes, you know, situations that aren't the most comfortable or that are really challenging are the ones that turn out to be the ones that teach you the most.
Right.
And I got my songwriting thing happening then. I started developing that skill much more, the craft of that. I learned what it was like to go out and do gigs opening for people, and then the crowd could care less who you were, you know. And that came from this, you know, this lineage of, you know, that kind of culminated in the big Mellencamp gigs to this situation where you're playing for like college kids in Athens and they don't know who you are and could care less, you know.
Right.
And so I think it was a character building experience, and
But great music came out of it as well.
great music came out of it. And now it's like, you know, there's so much YouTube stuff. People are like, that's the greatest band. Why can't you guys get back together? Well, you're 10 years late, you know, 15 years late.
Right.
And then, you know, when that band was over, it was really kind of heartbreaking for me. And I put so much into it.
Sure.
And that's when the phone rang and I started going to Nashville to make records more. I'd always done records, but they were more blues records and rock records. But Nashville at the time was sort of making records that were sounding like or trying to sound like a lot of the stuff that, you know, that we did with Mellencamp 10 years earlier.
Right.
But there goes my pick. Anyway, I grew up, my father listened to, you know, was like big Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash fan. I loved bluegrass. Norman Blake was a huge influence. James Burton, Roy Nichols. I listened to all those cats. And so I was more of a rock player, but yet I understood the language. And, you know, I had a couple of producers that liked the way I played. They start hiring me. Then I'd get, you know, the players down there, if you know, if you're a team player, and they like the way you play, they'll recommend you to another producer.
Sure.
And so that built, and I had a really good run of playing on a lot of those records. And the musicians in Nashville are unbelievable. I mean, the level of musicianship there was, I just couldn't believe how good some of those cats were and how quickly records are made. You know, I came from like Mellencamp, we'd spend a whole day doing one track. Now you do the entire track and finish it, which was a really exciting way to work too. But these guys were like cutting 5 songs in 3 hours, and they were sounding like finished records. At first I was like, whoa.
Right.
You know, and I had to learn to read number charts, and I had to be quicker, you know, and I had to be able to, like if they play the demo for you and they want this lick and that lick and none of it's written out, you had to memorize it. So it was a wonderful opportunity, and just learned so much about being in the studio. And
it had to be inspiring to work with those producers and songwriters.
It was, and great other great guitar players I got to work with.
Right.
You know, that's kind of dried up now because of the way the industry is. I mean, people don't buy CDs like they used to, so the trickle-down effect from that really impacts everybody: songwriters, studio players, and you know, the record company. The budgets they're putting into these new records are just a fraction of what they were, and so that, you know, the whole idea of flying people in is kind of going away.
Right.
Plus, all my gear just was in at sound check and got flooded out.
Oh no,
so
sorry.
Sort of took it as
a
sign from God that maybe your tenure here is over, and
I don't think so.
You should pursue some other things.
I don't think so.